My name is Tony Gonzalez. The media is Made in Metal. And today I'm talking to Andi Deris, the singer in Helloween. How are you, Andi?
Thanks for having me. I'm fine.
Perfect. So we are here because Helloween is going to release a new recording called Giant and Monster. And my first question is, what inspired the title of the new album?
Well, actually, the first track on the album, Giants on the Run, that's been pretty much the influential thing for the album title. Giants on the Run is also about these giants we could be. Everybody feels inside he's made for much more than he's allowed to be. So that might be social, education, political, or whatever reasons that you're like hold back. Also, there are the real monsters outside, people that don't like you, people that envy you and want to actually don't want you to succeed, and all these monsters. That's something that's like a red clue, more or less going through everybody's life, I think. And the whole idea came actually up when I watched a documentary in YouTube about world religions all over the place, from the Bible to the Hindu texts, and everybody talks about back in the days, thousands and thousands of years ago, there were giants on Earth. And these giants were not only giants by size, but also they had a longevity of around about 800 to 1,000 years even. So I think lots of friends of mine think it's been extraterrestrials or whatever, right? But I think it's been us. It's been humankind, and for whatever reason, we're being downgraded to what we are now. But I think everybody still has this feeling inside that we could be so much more. And yeah, I love that whole story going like a red clue through the whole album. Not conceptual, because there are quite a few songs who are not exactly in that ballpark, but I thought it fascinating that Kai, for example, has written we can be gods or majestic, and this is probably more or less in the same ballpark than Giants on the Run, and is yeah, that's that Giants and Monster theme. So independently, we wrote about the same shit, so to say.
Yes, Andy, if we kill the monster, we will be giant, depending on us.
Yeah, quite honestly, I think everybody who listens into himself realizes that he is destined to be much more than we can be in the moment. So probably we have been much more, and this is still something that we're missing, but we're having that amnesia. We don't know where we come from. Also very interesting, like each and every week there pops up a new site which has been uncovered under tons of sands or under tons of plants, and suddenly you realize, okay, the whole civilization has probably been so much older than only the 6,000 years we've been told so far. I think that been civilizations probably a few 100,000 years ago, and there are more and more evidence popping up, as I said, nearly every day, so to say. So yeah, that also plays into that giants theory. Probably mankind was much further than we admit. Nowadays, we think we're the only civilization, but it looks like we've been not. So probably there've been long gone civilizations on Earth, and maybe there've been giants. Maybe we have been the giants back in the days, but don't remember.
And Andy, were there any challenge while working on Giant and Monster compared to previous albums?
Well, to the contrary, actually, it was much easy going. So I remember after the Pumpkins United tour, we did the self-titled Helloween album. It was fun to do, but there's also this pressure on everybody's shoulder to actually prove ourselves now with that lineup. So yeah, I mean, the album turned out great. Honestly, I did not think that we would have the most successful album in the history of Helloween, with several number ones in several countries. Unbelievable. Because of that success, I think there's a lot of pressure off our shoulders when it comes to songwriting for this album. Everybody was suddenly so free to write without any ballpark or whatever. We just wrote songs, and I can say I've never had a band where so many songs were on the table for an upcoming album. We had like 30 ideas on the table. Me personally, I think there was like 23 super great songs. Unfortunately, you have to put it on a 10 or 11 songs album, so you cannot do 23 songs. But I'm happy to say if we would go to the studio tomorrow, we'll have a killer album recorded in a second because the songs are already there. So that's a luxury problem.
And Andy, which song on this record feels most special to you?
Oh, hard to say. I love Universe simply because it's got that message, which again connects to the whole Giants and Monsters thing super nicely. It's having that end light at the end of the tunnel thing, kind of. I love that. Also, Majestic, pretty much in the same ballpark. Giants on the Run, the song itself, yeah. I could actually probably name 80% of the album now. So,
but let me confess you that I imagine that you will say, "This is Tokyo."
oh, this is Tokyo. It's just a personal thing. I wanted to say thank you to Japan since 1990, actually, because they started my career with my former band, Pink Crim 69. We had super success going on there. And like a snowball, it rolled into Europe, and suddenly we were playing the big stages, and that's actually for me been Japan, the initial thing. And I've been so many times in Japan. I think it must be like 30, 31, 32 times. Back in the days, you had a chance to go to Japan even for promotion touring. Nowadays, the companies of the world don't have the money anymore to let you do 2 weeks of promotion tour in, for example, Japan. But back in the days, for each and every album, until I think The Dark Ride, so into the year of 2000, 2001, each and every year I was in Japan doing promotion, doing concerts. So this is like a kind of second home back in the days. I love the culture. I love the people. Uh, yeah, I always wanted to say thank you. So this song is definitely a special song for me, but only for personal reasons.
Yes. But as long as I remember, the first time that you were in Japan was in 1991. Is there anything that you remember from that moment when you arrived for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're not getting used to a Japanese audience back in the days, it changed big time nowadays. But back in the days, it was really like you played and the people were banging and everything, and then the song stops. And in the very moment you go back to the microphone, suddenly it's silence, dead silence. And I was scared. I thought, okay, did I do something wrong? Do I have something in my face or what's going on? Because it was like you could hear a needle falling to the floor. Because out of respect, they completely shut up and make complete silence to actually give you a chance to say something. But you have to get used to that. It's very, very gentle, I have to say, but it's not usual in the rest of the world because normally everybody's going on like, hey, banging, banging, banging. But this was something super funny. And I thought, okay, they show their respect. Okay, you want to say something, so everybody's waiting for you to say something. Complete silence. It took me 3 shows to actually get used to that because it feels like you did something wrong, you know? It's funny. Also, I have to say what was super culture shock for me as well. When you walked through the concert hall before the show, it was super clean. Everything is like, wow, clean. Then after the show, it's my habit to walk into the concert hall again. When all the people left, I want to see the stage again before our workers tear it down. And I have to say, I've never seen a concert hall so clean after the people left. It was probably cleaner than before. It's unbelievable. So something that is definitely only taking place in Japan. I've never seen that anywhere in the world. definitely not in Germany.
Not in Spain, not in Spain.
Yeah.
But not the support, the Japanese support continues. For example, Done with Mirrors, your recording was released in Japan in 1999, a year before anywhere else. So
Yeah.
why?
Well, Japan is always very quick. I think it's due to the prices, because the Japanese have much higher prices on CDs, album, vinyl, whatever. So a CD would easily cost you double or triple in comparison to the rest of the world. So they want to avoid that the Japanese audience is actually buying their albums for half a price outside of Japan. So when it's already available or to the same time available, they would order it somewhere in the world for a lot less money. That's why they want to be the first ones to release. Always. This time around as well, nothing changed here. Well, it's scary when you go to Japan and you see the prices. It's really scary. Somebody explained me that the Japanese back in the days earned like twice or three times more than people around or the rest of the world, while the prices there all automatically are as well double or triple. So I know the story from Europe. We have the same thing going on when Europe suddenly had the euro. I already was living here in Spain on the Canary Islands, and I personally was complaining, as the rest of the islands as well as the rest of Spain, that the prices suddenly were euro prices and everything went up in a day or so, 20, 30%. So that's when I understood, okay. So it's the currency is definitely the enemy of countries with a smaller GPD. So if you don't have that much economy in your country, then you're probably having a poorer or not as strong currency, which gives you a chance in this country to buy the same goods for less money than the countries which have a big GPD and earn a lot of money. To the same time, they have to pay double and triple. I was actually shocked when I realized that even if you are working your ass off, you will at the end of the day not have much more money, because you have to pay in your country, you have to pay double and triple prices.
Yes.
So the world is really a fucked up thing, I have to say. It's really fucked up. But yeah, and that's another story.
Yes, but now that we mentioned Done with Mirrors, it's been 25 years since your last solo album. This is a part of your story that is already gone, or may we see a surprise solo release in the future?
Well, I always told everybody that I probably will do one solo album, which will be definitely my last album. So this is something to say goodbye, which is a rough plan I have in my mind to say goodbye after my career is like gone. So in 15, 20 years, I don't know, maybe there's the last album. That's my goodbye album, with all the songs on it, which I still love after all the years, but never made it on a Helloween record because it's too far away, not in the ballpark. So too experimental, you name it. Sometimes you have ideas, they are nice and great, and I love them, but it would not fit to Helloween. But still, they are there. It's your hot blood. So, but if you ask me if I would now in the next years release a solo album, definitely no. Too much work. I'm a lazy Leo.
Yes, coming back to the new album, there is a song called "A Little Is a Little Too Much."
Yeah.
This song was inspired by songs in you experienced at 15. What
Yeah.
happened? What happened that make it stick with you after all this time?
Well, because this is something that always comes up whenever I meet with my school friends, which fortunately I do have. Since early days, I still have three, which I am friends since the sixth class, actually. So we still stick together and still have the same talks whenever we meet. This subject comes up whenever we meet, because everybody in my Well, close and not so close ballpark of friends always had the same problem. They were scared to death that the first time they do it, they will come too early. It's always the same subject. Even nowadays, we remember these days. I think when you're getting older, you don't have that problem anymore. And we had a good laugh because one of my friends said, nah, another 10 years and we probably will have a problem even to come. So, yeah, funny story. It's because the original lyrics was very dystopian. It was that about that famous drop too much and everything boils over and the whole world goes to shit. And the song itself is very positive. So I said, okay, I have to change the lyrics in the way of funny. And honestly, I only changed 2 sentences, and suddenly it was not a dystopian thing, but something to laugh about. So that's the funny story about it. 2 sentences and back from dystopia and into sex.
No, I will pay more attention to the lyrics the next time I listen to this song. And
Yeah.
in several songs, there are choirs. And I would like to ask you, how were the choirs recorded for songs like Giant on the Run? And did each vocal do their parts separately in their own studio and they join together? Because I imagine that it was quite difficult.
No, the vocals were all done here in Tenerife in my studio here. And Kai flew in because he had to play several solos, which are still missing or were missing. So Kai was here, Michael was here, myself, Sasha was here. He was also playing overdubs and some solos, which were still missing. So all the 4 people who actually can sing were here in the studio. So Charlie just said, okay, into the studio, everybody shouting left and right. That's what we did for 2.5 days. And choired ourselves, so to say. So happy to have Sasha, because Sasha sounds fabulous. For example, on A Little Is a Little Too Much, you got "Don't Take Me, Don't Make Me." That's so brilliant because it's definitely another voice color. It's not Michael, it's not me, obviously, which for that song was very important because it would sound stupid when Michael just sings the lead vocals and me, I sing the refrain, and suddenly there's Michael again or Andy again who just sang. You hear it on several records. This is something I always hate, when the singer himself sings over his own voice. I hate that. But yeah, sometimes back in the days you couldn't avoid it because probably the budget was not there. A choir costs a lot of money. You don't have singers in the band, so the singer did it himself. I can understand, but I still don't like it. But having 4 capable beings who can sing, that's a luxury problem. So when everybody was here, we did all the choirs, and I think it sounds great.
I imagine that when you say the studio in your house, you are referring to my Miso Studios.
Yeah.
Miso Studios. Tell me, yes, now that you mention, are the studio open to anyone who wants to record there?
Not really, only when I'm here, because it's my main living house here. So that's where we mainly hang out. So if it's a complete stranger, I first have to get to know him. So honestly, I only so far produced bands when I was there or Charlie was there, or our producer, because Charlie is a long year friend. I trust him in everything. So even when I'm not here at home, I think I know that the house will not burn down, put it that way. So yeah, it's half open, but I have to get to know the people. I first need to have a meeting. We produced some bands here from the island. We produced, because of Charlie, we produced bands like Rob Halford from Priest or Hammerfall or Rage, and all these great bands were here. But as I said, it must be Charlie or myself being here, then it's not a problem. Also, I did the studio, I connected everything. So if something technically goes wrong, it's good to have somebody who knows what to do.
So Andy, if you decide to leave the stage tomorrow, what side of yourself would you love to develop more? Producer?
Producing is for me a boring thing. I like to produce a little bit when it comes to making some demos and shit like that, pre-production, that's all good. But as soon as I would have to sit there for 3, 4, 5 hours or even longer to really mix and produce a song, and maybe like producing means also weeks and weeks with the band, playing all the bits and pieces. I don't think I have the nerves for that. I don't think I'm the right guy for that. I'm not patient enough. I would probably drive every band crazy. So no, production would not be my thing. I'd rather say I keep on going writing songs as I do now, but the majority, which goes certainly to Helloween, would then go to my publisher because he is always trying to get some songs. So probably I would end up as main songwriter for whomever. Certainly as a ghostwriter, because you should never put Andi Deris under it, because there's lots of songs which are not in the metal, but more in the rock or rock pop. So whenever somebody would read Andi Deris, he would go like, oh, metal, which is a shame actually, but that's what you're famous for. You're a metal musician, so everybody expects metal whenever he reads your name. In itself, I'm fine with it, but it's actually stupid. Why shouldn't a metal guy not write a pop rock song? So this is something I never understood, but that's the way it is. So I always don't like to see my name under it. It's always under a synonym.
Andy, I understood because I'm 64. When I was 24, I said, no, metal, only metal. Yes?
Yeah.
That's part of the story.
Well, I dig that. I'm mainly metal. I'm mainly a hard rocker and metalhead. But sometimes there's an idea which is not metal. It's rock. It's maybe even pop rock. Then, on the other hand, you would not be allowed to make a ballad. This is the great exception you're allowed to do. So a ballad is always nice to have even on a metal album, where I always say, yeah, but a pop rock song is probably, for a metalhead, a ballad. So what's wrong? Why wouldn't you try to do something out of the ballpark if you have an idea that you just like? I mean, exceptionally, you have a pop rock idea. Mainly, I have rock and metal ideas, but hey, metal is, for me, mainly the arrangement. You crank up the amps, you push up the vocals because you have to yell and shout over the power of the guitar. But overall, when you transpose it down, you don't need to have a double guitar wall to make a good song, but it's still maybe an old metal song which suddenly appears in a dress of pop rock or something like that, or just rock and roll. That's how Black Sabbath started. I mean, they started with blues. It's just a matter of arranging to make the guitar louder, to make it harder, and then you suddenly end up in metal. But what is metal? Actually, it all comes from the rock and roll and blues era. So yeah, we just cranked up the amps and made it wilder, made it louder, made it pitching higher and everything, all that great shit that lets you bang your head. But the roots are definitely blues and rock and roll and,
Fans still remember that you worked with Aerion on To the Bazaar from Universal Migrator Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
You work with them, but you haven't joined their live shows. Was that due to the Helloween commitments?
Yeah, would still have sometimes, but back in the days, it was very common that you would have signed exclusive contracts. Yeah, it's not obsolete, but it's way less exclusive contracts that you have nowadays. So the exclusivity is mainly then for the touring year, where you actually tell your insurance, no, you will not do anything else, but you just concentrate on this tour, because they want to make sure that you don't fuck up your voice by participating in other shows with other people or whatever. Can understand that. That's what you have to do, because without insurance, you definitely don't want to book a 15-month world tour. So if something goes wrong, you're financially safe, more or less. If not, you could go bankrupt in a minute, because if something goes wrong on a world tour, there are things that could happen that cost you millions. So you have to have an insurance. So that's a kind of exclusivities that you have to sign. There's no way around it. But me, it's being musician outside of the touring year. I have all the freedom. So back in the days, not now, yes.
Yes. So we might imagine that maybe this new album won't be as big as the Helloween album or the Keeper of the Seven Keys. But even in that case, is there a song in this new album do you think could become a timeless classic?
Oof, hard to say, because I'm not very objective on that one. But I don't know, maybe a song like Into the Sun could be something that spreads wider than only the metal world. I could see Into the Sun also being loved and accepted by even a housewife here and there. So ballads are always finding much more people. So they are not constrained just in the metal world, because there are lots of people outside of the metal world who love rock ballads. So that might be a song that spreads a bit wider, which probably would even have a chance to being played on this or that brave radio. A Little Is a Little Too Much might be one of those songs, like a crossover metal, an entrance into the metal world, because it's got enough metal for a metalhead, but not so much that a normal rocker would switch it off, if you know what I mean. I
Yes.
think it's still too catchy to not listen to it. If it takes off or something like that, again, I don't know. Nowadays it's hard to sell. Everything is for me, the main thing is have a good album, have a great roller coaster ride when listening through an album, because I'm one of those guys who comes out of a generation who was proud to buy a vinyl and then tell his friends, and all the friends come to your house because you just bought a new record of whomever. And then suddenly you had 3, 4, 5 friends in your house, and you decided to together listen to that album. I don't want to miss that. So even nowadays, I'm going to buy an album, and then I only listen to an album when I have a time to really relax for an hour or so. When I go, now I want to listen to this album, and then I listen to it. No breaks, please. This is something I still enjoy. I think everybody understands up to, let's say, or from 30 to 60 or 70, they all grew up with that. You did probably as well. You know what I'm talking about. The newer generations, unfortunately, they don't know what they are missing, unfortunately, but it's always something that cost us a lot of money. As far as I remember, I had to work all through the summer, some shitty job, to actually have enough money to buy a little hi-fi system and a vinyl player. So nowadays, I think the kids are not really willing, or not a lot of kids are willing to actually buy themselves some great sound for at home, because that implicates that you take the time to really relax. You sit down to enjoy music, and they do it with the iPhone, you know. So they don't know what they're missing because they never got it. And I see why they don't have it, because it's way too costly. So that's a catch-22 for the new generations. Our generation still had enough money, put it that way. So we had that luxury to buy a hi-fi system. Out of the generations of my nephews,
Yes.
they are like new generations, and they simply don't have the money. They look at you like, wow, when you see like the studios and the speakers and the vinyl player, and they go, wow. And it's not that they would not like it. They would want that, but it's too much money nowadays.
I imagine that they don't like it, that they prefer the smartphone and going in the street, plays
Yes,
music. Yes.
yes and no. They would probably, if they had the money left, they would probably get some hi-fi system the way we did back in the days. But we were blessed. We had the money from our parents most of the times, or we had a chance to have a job and earn the money. So nowadays, I mean, talking to my nephews, for example, it's not easy. Back in my days, I just told somebody, "Oh, I'm looking for a job over the summer." Oh yeah, not a problem. You can help here, you can help there, blah blah blah. Nowadays, forget it. They have a much more difficult life than we did. I feel, I think, I see.
Coming back to the musical part, Andy, how do you manage the changes in your voice over time?
Well, try not to change it too much. The only thing I learned is not to overpower it. So when you're on stage and the adrenaline kicks in, it's very hard to hold the horses, so to say. Adrenaline is my enemy because you want to have fun and yeah, you're hyped, and then you don't take care that you don't shout too hard, that you don't, well, breast shout in the high pitches, because this fucks up your voice very quickly, which means you have to have more and more disciplines the older you get to finally know during the show, take care that you switch to the technique from here on. And from here on, it's okay to sing in the breast voice again, because I realized back in the days it was easier to recover from day to day, even if I did something stupid and did not go to the technique, but kept on yelling like, you know. But this is very punishing nowadays. So I realized the last 10 years, the recovering time is at least double as long as it used to be. So it's like a bodybuilder. If you go make bodybuilding at the age of 16, 17, 18, you probably go on training for the next day, very next day. Whereas when you're getting 30, 40, or even older, then you realize, okay, you cannot do that anymore. Everything hurts more and it hurts longer. So, which probably is normal physics of human beings, but for the voice, it means the same. Take care, don't overdo it. Maybe in the tour planning, don't do 4 or 5 shows in a row, but keep it to 3, that we have a chance to recover. That's something you have to do. Otherwise, you fuck up your voice big time, I think. And I have, like in the family, I have some examples. I mean, look, Klaus from the Scorpions, for example, he had to do 2 surgeries in vocal cords. It's really no fun to know that you have to go under a procedure of a surgery of your vocal cords and not knowing if your voice will be still okay later on. I don't want to go through that shit. And Klaus is not that guy who is completely yelling and shouting, so that's more me. So when I saw this, I thought, okay, I have to take much more care to not fall into that trap of getting problems with the voice. So yeah, always try to give it a chance to recover. Same for Michael. Michael's would tell you exactly the same. The best thing is one show, one off, one show, but that's something you wish for, but financially it's not doable. So you have to do 2 or 3 shows, then you have an off day or 2, then you have to another 2 or 3 shows. So like that, it works. But 4 shows and 5 shows, as we did back in the days, you shouldn't do that.
You told me something some minutes ago that made me feel that I need to tell you something related to this. For example,
Okay.
even when I am living in Madrid, I was born in Cuba.
Okay.
And I must tell you that in Cuba, the Caribbean island, in 1991, there was a place in the city, Havana City, a place every Sunday morning when the people, the rockers, meet together and change music, poster, magazines or so, and then appears the first Pink 69 CD, and I take it and everybody record on tapes this recording, and it was really an extraordinary CD that I still remember with happiness.
Yeah.
And it was the
Yeah.
moment when a friend of you can give you a tape and you recording in your high fidelity system, and they have it. Yes, and in Cuba, they don't sell recordings. They don't sell CDs from American or European groups, and rock was almost forbidden for some years. So, and my last question is, if you could talk to the Andi Deris from the 90s, who just joined at Helloween, what personal advice would you give him?
Calm down, everything will be great. Because back in the days, this was like, I was very nervous. There was a lot of pressure going on here. Oh, my best friend.
Yes.
There was so much pressure going on because you did not know back in the days what will become. If would the new singer be accepted? Would this new album would be accepted? Is it great enough? Is it good enough? And there was so many questions. And I just left a successful band for Helloween, which was on the way down back in the days. After the Chameleon album, it was really not good for the band. But with Waiki, I thought, okay, I know that Idiot's in 7 years. I love him. And it's one of my best friends. So why not starting out with one of my best friends and try it again? The trust was there. For me, it was fortunately not a complete strangers band, but I knew Waiki since forever, and I knew Marcus on the bass a little bit and liked him. I knew he was a crazy guy, but a very calm guy, so somebody to like, somebody who's an open heart, a warm heart. So I was not feeling like being pushed into a bunch of strangers, but it felt like a little bit of coming home, even more when they listened to my demos back in the days and you saw their eyes shine. It's like, wow, fucking great songs, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, okay, period. Who is my band? There it is.